Elena had arrived in western Spain 25 years earlier, a wide-eyed American divorcee fleeing the sterile suburbs of Chicago, where her marriage to a Wall Street broker had crumbled under the weight of unspoken silences and boardroom betrayals. At 43, with a nest egg from her graphic design firm and a heart raw as an open wound, she settled in a crumbling finca on the outskirts of Huelva, where the Atlantic winds carried the salt of freedom and the scent of orange blossoms. Spain, with its siestas and flamenco fury, felt like the antidote to her buttoned-up Midwestern upbringing, a place to reinvent, to breathe. But reinvention came with thorns. The locals eyed her Yankee accent and solo status with suspicion, dubbing her La Americana Loca behind her back. She didn't care. She volunteered at the local orphanage, drawn to the forgotten corners where society's rejects gathered dust. The first girl was Valeria, 8 years old, with eyes like storm clouds and a defiance that could shatter glass. Abandoned by a mother who called her un pecado, a sin for kissing the neighbor's daughter behind the school shed, Valeria arrived at the orphanage with bruises blooming like forbidden roses on her arms, not from beatings, but from the rough hands of priests who prayed the demon out. Elena found her perched on a windowsill, staring at the sea as if plotting an escape to some mythical shore where love didn't come with chains. "You think you can fix me?" Valeria spat when Elena offered a hand, her voice a whip-crack in the dim room. But Elena saw herself in that glare, the girl who'd hidden crushes on cheerleaders under layers of plaid skirts and piety. "I'm not here to fix you, kiddo," Elena replied, her Chicago twang cutting through the tension like a hot knife through butter. "I'm here to build something real. With you." The adoption was a battle. Spanish bureaucracy, laced with Catholic conservatism, dragged on for months. Neighbors petitioned against it, claiming Elena's foreign morals would corrupt the child. But Elena fought with the ferocity of a mama bear, her lawyer a sharp-tongued Sevillana who quoted Lorca in court. When the judge's gavel fell in favor, Valeria didn't cry. She just grabbed Elena's hand and whispered, "Don't let go." They drove home in Elena's battered Renault, the radio blasting Joan Baez's Diamonds and Rust, and for the first time in years, Elena felt like she was coming home. Victoria came next, a year later, at 10. She was the quiet storm to Valeria's thunder, a trans girl whose birth certificate lied about her name and soul, shipped off by a father who preferred sons and a mother too buried in rosaries to notice the light fading from her child's eyes. Victoria's hair was a wild cascade of auburn curls, her freckles a constellation across a face that held secrets deeper than the Guadalquivir. She'd been shuttled through foster homes, each one a fresh hell of misgendering and midnight escapes. Elena spotted her in the orphanage garden, sketching wildflowers with charcoal-smudged fingers, her dress too big, her dreams too small. "What's it like to be seen?" Elena asked, sitting cross-legged on the dirt. Victoria looked up, brown eyes wary as a deer's. "Hurts more than being invisible." That night, over chamomile tea in Elena's kitchen, Victoria confessed her truth in halting Spanish English, and Elena wrapped her in a hug that smelled of lavender soap and unwavering belief. "From now on, you're Vic. My Vic. And that's the only name that matters." Adopting Victoria sparked the town's first real wildfire of gossip. Priests sermonized from pulpits about unnatural unions, and eggs splattered against the finca's walls like accusations. Valeria, now fiercely protective, stood guard with a slingshot fashioned from olive branches. But Elena turned the hate into fuel. She enrolled the girls in a progressive art collective in Huelva, where queer expats and local bohemians mingled like colors on a palette. There, amid clay wheels and easels, the girls began to bloom. Valeria discovered her love for poetry, scribbling verses about sirens who loved without apology. Victoria painted worlds where bodies were canvases for joy, not shame. Sophia arrived at 12, a blonde waif with glasses perpetually sliding down her nose, her bisexuality a whispered rumor that had gotten her expelled from 3 schools. Abused by an uncle who saw her curiosity as an invitation, Sophia arrived mute, her voice locked in a cage of trauma. Elena coaxed it out with bedtime stories of Audre Lorde and Frida Kahlo, women who turned pain into power. "You're not broken, Mija," Elena would say, braiding Sophia's hair by firelight. "You're a mosaic. Slowly, Sophia's laughter returned, a melody that filled the finca's sunlit rooms. Maria, 14, was the firecracker, a butch lesbian with a mohawk shaved into her dark curls and a laugh that could chase shadows. Kicked out by her evangelical family for dating the mechanic's daughter, she landed in juvie for vandalism after tagging "Love Wins" on the church wall. Elena bailed her out with a wink and a warning, "Channel that rage, kid. The world's big enough for your fire." Maria fixed cars in the finca's garage, her hands perpetually greasy, her heart a engine revving for justice. Lucia, the youngest at 9, was the enigma, hijab-wearing Muslim girl whose parents fled Morocco only to drown in Spain's underbelly of Islamophobia. Her queerness was a budding secret, a crush on her tutor that her father discovered and punished with exile to the orphanage. With straight black hair framing eyes like polished onyx, Lucia clung to Elena like a lifeline, whispering prayers in Arabic that blended with Elena's off-key renditions of "This land is your land." The finca became a sanctuary, walls echoing with 5 distinct voices weaving into a chorus. Those early years were a tapestry of small miracles and sharp edges. Morning started with Elena's pancakes, fluffy stacks drowned in maple syrup imported from back home, followed by homeschooling laced with history lessons on Stonewall and the suffrage marches. Afternoons were for the Grove, where the girls harvested olives under the relentless Andalusian sun, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. Evenings brought storytelling circles, where vulnerabilities spilled like wine, Valeria's fear of abandonment, Victoria's dysphoria days, Sophia's nightmares, Maria's anger flares, Lucia's cultural tug-of-war. Elena listened without judgment, her American optimism a buoy in their sea of doubt. "Family isn't blood," she'd say, her voice steady as the Atlantic. "It's choice. And we choose each other." But cracks formed early. The town's hostility simmered, stones through windows, slashed tires, anonymous letters calling Elena a groomer of perversions. The girls internalized it, their bonds tightening like vines around a trellis. Valeria and Victoria, the closest in age and spirit, shared a room with bunk beds that became a confessional. At 13, Valeria penned her first love poem for Vic, slipping it under her pillow, "Your freckles map the stars I chase." Vic blushed, her heart a flutter of unspoken possibility. Their friendship deepened into something tender, a sapling love nurtured in stolen glances and midnight whispers. Elena noticed but said nothing. Love, in her book, deserved its own timeline. By their teens, the finca pulsed with teenage chaos, posters of Billie Holiday and Bad Bunny tacked to walls, debates over veganism versus chorizo, first heartbreaks over crushes that fizzled. Sophia came out first at a local pride march Elena organized, her sign reading, "By and Proud," in bold marker. The crowd was small but fierce, expats, activists, a smattering of locals thawing under the Huelva sun. Maria kissed a girl from the collective on stage, her mohawk defiant under the rainbow flags. Lucia, veiled in pride colors, recited Rumi adapted for queer hearts. Valeria and Victoria held hands in the shadows, their fingers laced like promises. Yet beneath the joy lurked shadows. Financial strains bit hard, Elena's design gigs dried up as clients whispered about her lifestyle. She sold heirlooms, a locket from her grandmother, to keep the lights on. The girls pitched in, Valeria tutoring English, Victoria selling prints at markets, Sophia coding apps on a borrowed laptop. It was a gritty American dream transplanted to Iberian soil, hustle, heart, and unyielding hope. The betrayal brewed slowly, like a storm over the Sierra Nevada. It started with an opportunity. A talent scout from Madrid spotted Victoria's paintings at a regional expo. Raw talent, the woman gushed, handing over a card for a prestigious gallery in Barcelona. Vic, now 18, eyes wide with dreams, showed it to the family that night. Cheers erupted, but Valeria's smile faltered. She'd been sketching her own graphic novel, a queer epic inspired by their lives, but submissions kept coming back rejected. "This could be our ticket," Vic said, hugging everyone. Elena beamed, pride swelling like the tide. What no one saw was the seed of envy taking root in Maria. At 20, she'd channeled her fire into activism, co-founding a youth center for LGBTQ plus runaways in Huelva. But funding was scarce, and the scouts' offer to Vic felt like a spotlight stealing her thunder. Why her? Maria muttered to Sophia one night, nursing a beer in the garage. Sophia, ever the peacemaker, shrugged. Vic's art speaks. Yours fights. Both matter. But Maria's doubts festered, her protectiveness twisting into resentment. The years blurred into a montage of milestones, the finca evolving from sanctuary to launchpad. Valeria, now 22, self-published her graphic novel, Sirens of the Strait, a semi-autobiographical tale of 5 sisters navigating love's treacherous waters in a fictionalized Huelva. It sold modestly online, earning raves from queer-lit blogs in the States, a fresh voice from Spain's hidden coasts, one proclaimed. She and Vic, inseparable, turned their bunk beds into a shared studio, canvases and sketchpads spilling across the floor. Their love flowered quietly, a first kiss under the olive moon, tasting of salt and secrets, lazy Sundays tangled in sheets, whispering futures. We'll conquer the world together, Valeria vowed, tracing Vic's jawline. Vic, her anchor, nodded, as long as it's us. Sophia blossomed into a tech whiz, her apps for mental health check-ins going viral among European queer communities. At 24, she moved to Lisbon for a startup gig but returned monthly, her glasses upgraded to chic frames, her bisexuality a badge worn with quiet grace. You built this nest, she'd tell Elena, but we learned to fly. Maria's center thrived, too, expanding to workshops on intersectional feminism, queer Muslims, trans migrants, rural lesbians. Lucia, the poet of the bunch, wove Arabic verses with Spanish sonnets, her chapbook Veils and Vines winning a regional award at 21. She studied literature in Seville, commuting on a scooter painted in pride stripes, her hijab a canvas of embroidered rainbows. Elena, graying but unbowed, watched her daughters soar with a mix of awe and ache. At 58, she started a blog, Finca 5, Raising Rebels in the Spanish Sun, chronicling their journey with wry humor and raw honesty. It caught fire on American podcasts, expat forums buzzing about the lesbian Brady Bunch with flamenco flair. Invitations trickled in, TEDx talks, pride keynotes. But the heart stayed in Huelva, where suppers were raucous affairs, paella laced with Elena's secret hot sauce, debates over Biden's latest blunder or Franco's lingering ghosts. The fracture hit like a rogue wave during a family summit in the Grove, 5 years into their young adulthoods. Maria, 25, had scored a grant for her center, but strings attached, partner with a flashy NGO from Barcelona, the same one scouting Vic's art. It's a collab, Maria insisted, but her eyes darted. In truth, the NGO's director, a slick Catalan named Javier, had wooed her with promises of funding, and more. Maria, lonely after a string of flings, fell into his orbit, his charm masking a corporate edge. He convinced her to streamline the center's operations, cutting volunteer programs to favor high-profile events. It was betrayal by inches, siphoning resources, claiming credit for grassroots wins. Valeria caught wind first. Scrolling grant reports for her next book's research, she spotted discrepancies, funds rerouted to Javier's pet projects, Maria's name on press releases that glossed over the center's queer core. What the hell, Ria? Valeria confronted her in the garage, oil cans clattering like accusations. Maria, wrench in hand, flushed. It's business, Val. You wouldn't get it, your world's all pretty pictures. The words landed like shrapnel. Valeria, who'd poured her soul into stories of solidarity, felt the sting deep. This is us you're selling out. For some suit who sees us as photo ops? Word spread like wildfire through the family chat. Victoria, prepping for her first solo show in Madrid, felt the ground shift. She confided in Maria about her gallery nerves, only for Javier to poach the contact, angling for a cut. He said it was networking, Maria defended when Vic called, voice cracking. But doubt crept in, a serpent in their Eden. Sophia flew back from Lisbon, her calm facade cracking. We're family, Maria. Not stepping stones. Lucia, ever the mediator, quoted Gibran, "Your children are not your children, but arrows in your quiver." But Maria, pride wounded, lashed out. "You all act like Elena's saints. I'm the one in the trenches, fighting for scraps while you chase fame." Elena gathered them under the oldest olive tree, its trunk scarred like their hearts. Rain pattered on leaves, a somber percussion. "Betrayal isn't the end," she said, her American pragmatism laced with Spanish soul. "It's the forge." But Maria stormed off, tires screeching into the night. The grove felt hollow, the bonds frayed. Valeria and Vic retreated to their studio, love their refuge. That night, as thunder rolled, Vic painted Valeria's fury, bold strokes of crimson and indigo, while Val wrote feverishly, channeling pain into prose. Their intimacy deepened, a balm, slow dances in the kitchen to Nina Simone, bodies sinking like tides. "We'll heal this," Vic murmured, forehead to forehead. Val nodded, but fear gnawed, could they? The rift widened. Maria dove deeper into Javier's world, her mohawk softening to a professional bob, her fire banked for boardrooms. The center morphed, fewer workshops for trans youth, more galas with champagne flutes and influencers. Locals whispered of selling out, the very sin Maria once decried. Sophia's apps integrated with the NGO, but she pulled back when data privacy lapsed. "It's tainted," she told Elena over Zoom, exhaustion etching her face. Lucia's poetry turned elegiac, verses of fractured kinships read at underground slams. Valeria's second book, Betrayed Branches, fictionalized the fracture, a tale of sisters divided by ambition's blade. It exploded, optioned for a Netflix series by a queer showrunner from LA. Overnight, the Finca 5 trended, Olive Grove Sisters. Reporters swarmed Huelva, Elena's blog surging to thousands of subscribers. But fame's glare exposed wounds. Maria, scrolling from a Barcelona hotel, seethed at interviews where Val spoke of unbreakable love without naming her. Javier fueled it, "They're jealous, Carino. Use it." Victoria's Madrid show was a triumph, galleries buzzing, critics hailing her as Spain's Kahlo reborn. But backstage, Vic overheard Javier schmoozing collectors, crediting his mentorship. Rage boiled. She texted the group, "He's poisoning us. Maria, come home." No reply. That night, alone in her hotel, Vic called Valeria, sobs breaking through. "I thought we were enough. Val, in Huelva, ached across the miles. We are. Always." Climax brewed at the Seville Pride Festival, a riot of color against conservative undercurrents. Elena rented a float, a olive-branched chariot towed by a vintage tractor, the girls, minus Maria, aboard in custom sashes, roots run deep. Crowds cheered, but tension hummed. Whispers of Maria's NGO headlining a corporate booth reached them mid-parade. There, Sophia pointed, voice tight. Maria stood on stage with Javier, microphone in hand, touting inclusive progress, but her eyes, when they locked on the float, were haunted. The confrontation erupted post-parade in the grove, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows. Maria arrived unannounced, Javier's Mercedes idling at the gate like a getaway car. "I came to talk," she said, voice raw. But words failed, accusations flew. "You traded us for spotlights." Valeria shouted, poem book clutched like a weapon. "We built this together, your center was our blood." Victoria stepped forward, tears carving tracks through stage makeup. "I trusted you, Ria. With everything." Sophia and Lucia flanked her, a wall of quiet fury. Elena watched, heart splintering. Maria cracked. "You don't get it. Elena gave us dreams, but reality's a grind. Javier saw my potential, offered security. Not fairy tales." The betrayal unspooled, embezzled funds, leaked stories to tabloids painting the family as dysfunctional drama queens to boost NGO PR, gasps rippled. Valeria lunged, not with fists but words, potential. "You're the branch that snapped. Maria recoiled, then fled to the car, Javier's hand on her shoulder a chain. But as taillights faded, something shifted. Victoria collapsed against Valeria, their embrace a lifeline. "We can't lose her," Vic whispered. Elena nodded, steel in her gaze. "Then we fight smarter. For all of us." Rebuilding began at dawn, the Grova council chamber under Dukish leaves. Elena brewed coffee strong as resolve, her silver hair tied back like a warrior's knot. "Betrayal's a teacher," she said, passing mugs. Harsh, but honest. Sophia mapped a plan on her tablet, exposed the NGO's misdeeds without dragging Maria under. Lucia drafted a public letter, poetic, piercing, framing the fracture as a call to true solidarity. Valeria channeled it into a viral comic strip series, Shattered Olives, shared on Instagram with Finca5 Unbroken. Victoria's next painting, Tangled Roots, depicted the family as intertwined vines, thorns and all, sold at auction for charity, proceeds to Maria's original center vision. The counteroffensive was pure American grit meets Spanish passion. Petitions circulated in Huelva markets, allies from the art collective amplifying online. Sophia's coder friends hacked together a transparent funding tracker, revealing Javier's sleight of hand. Donors pulled from the NGO, scandals blooming in El País headlines, queer activists betrayed by Barcelona elite. Maria, holed up in a sublet, watched it unfold in isolation. Javier's mask slipped, arguments escalating, his support revealed as control. One night, after he trashed her mohawk regrowth as unprofessional, she packed a bag and drove west, the Atlantic calling her home. She arrived at the finca at midnight, rain slicked and shattered, knocking like a ghost. Valeria opened the door, hesitation flickering, then pulled her into a bear hug. "Idiot," Val muttered, tears mixing with rain. The living room became absolution, Maria spilling confessions, how loneliness had blinded her, Javier's whispers exploiting old insecurities from orphanage days. "I thought I was saving us," she choked. Victoria knelt beside her, hand on knee. "You were fighting alone. We fight together." Sophia offered data, "The center's yours again, clean slate." Lucia read a new poem, Return of the Flame, forgiving without forgetting. Elena, last, cupped Maria's face. "Welcome back, firecracker. We've missed your spark." Healing wasn't linear. Therapy sessions in Seville unpacked layers, Maria's guilt manifesting in overwork, Valeria's trust issues sparking arguments. But love wove them tighter. Valeria and Victoria's bond, tested by distance during Vic's travels, solidified in quiet rituals, morning runs through the groves, evening sketching each other's scars. At 28, Val proposed with a ring forged from olive wood, engraved, "Our Story Unwritten." Vic said yes under the same tree that witnessed their fractures, families circling like guardians. The rise came swiftly, a crescendo built on ashes. Shattered Olives greenlit for series, filming on location in Huelva, Valeria as showrunner, infusing authenticity. Victoria's gallery in New York beckoned, but she negotiated a Huelva outpost, mentoring local queer artists. Sophia's startup acquired by a Berlin firm, funding global apps, she returned to spearhead the center's tech wing. Maria, Mohawk reclaimed, transformed it into a beacon, hybrid safe space and innovation hub, grants flowing ethically. Lucia's poetry collection, Echoes of Exile, topped Spanish bestseller lists, her TED Talk on queer Muslim narratives viewed millions. Elena, at 68, became the matriarch icon, her memoir, Finca5, From Orphans to Outlaws, a New York Times pick, blending Midwestern pluck with Iberian heart. "I didn't save them," she'd say in interviews, accent thick with pride. "They saved me." The world watched, CNN specials, pride floats worldwide waving Finca flags. But the true triumph was private, an annual Grove reunion, toasts with Elena's hot sauce sangria, stories retold with laughter over old wounds. 25 years from that rainy adoption night, the five stood on a Seville stage at the International Women's Forum, an award for lifetime impact in human rights gleaming. Valeria, 45, athletic and scarred, Gripped the mic, voice steady. We were the unwanted, LGBTQ plus girls discarded like yesterday's news. But one woman's choice changed everything. Victoria, 44, freckled and radiant, squeezed her hand, their wedding bands catching light. Sophia, 47, poised in glasses. Maria, 46, tattooed and fierce. Lucia, 45, eyes alight, flanked Elena, who wiped tears with a callous thumb. The crowd, activists, allies, everyday heroes, rose in ovation. But in that thunder, Maria caught Valeria's eye, a nod of amends. Betrayal's echo faded, replaced by harmony. They weren't flawless, conflicts would flare, heartbreaks loom. Yet in their weave, lesbian loves, trans truths, by balancings, activist angers, poetic prayers, they found grace. Humanistic, unyielding, proof that from rejection's soil, revolutions bloom. As confetti rained, Elena whispered to the stars peeking through city haze, we rose. Together.